Sunderland picked up a huge win this weekend against Crystal Palace, winning 2-1, and I'm going to go through some talking points from the game, but also some wider points about Sunderland, where we are right now, and kind of what the future holds for the club from now at the end of the season. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the high-quality goals that we scored in the game against Crystal Palace, because one of the main criticisms of the Sunderland team, I think, this season, has been that we haven't been the most creative of sides. We're defensively pretty solid, but a lot of our goals come from set pieces or defensive mistakes. And this weekend, we saw 2 goals come, which I thought were of really good quality. The first goal in particular was a really well-worked move, some good passing play. The pass from Granit Xhaka to Nordi Mukiele. Mukiele's cross, the way Brobbey made the run, Lafay gets in the middle of the box and finishes off well. That was a really, really good, probably one of our better goals this season, in all honesty. The second goal, a little bit of fortune in the way that it kind of comes about and gets to Brian Brobbey. But the finish, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on this. I think that was a really high-level finish from Brian Brobbey, and he seems to be getting better and better as every game goes on. He's still just 23 years old, and this is a guy who is a physical menace. Centre-backs hate playing against him, and he's slowly but surely adding those goals to his game. That's 2 in his last 3, I think it is, in the Premier League. So Brobbey's really turned into a good level striker in the Premier League, and if he can add the goals to his hold-up play, then we've got a serious player on our hands. And our general creativity, it still obviously needs to be improved. Sunderland are a team that's defence first, we all know that, but I still think that if we were just to add a quality right winger to this team, our creativity would go up, exponentially. And I think that's the one area of this team that really needs work. I think on the left, you can look at Mundo, you can look at Dingra, you can look at Talby and say, right, okay, those 3 players, are they necessarily good enough to be starting left wingers for a top half Premier League team? Well, maybe not, but they all feel like players that could become that in time. Whereas on the right side, Bertrand Traore, we know he's got an injury and he's done pretty well since he's signed for the club, but there isn't really anyone after him. And I think that ideally I would look at that and say Traore would be the number 2, and you've got to bring in sort of a top level right-sided forward, and I think that has to be the area. If something are going to invest in January, that's the player that I think we need to go out and invest for. Look, if we don't get it and we wait till the summer, it is what it is. I'm not going to whinge about it. We've done really well this season. We've got 33 points from 22 games or whatever it is. I'm not going to complain, but I think if you are being super critical in wanting to really cement yourself as one of the top teams in the league, then a right winger has to be the number 1 priority in the January window. I know they brought in Justin Tabby, but I don't think he is going to be a starting player straight away. He's 20 years old. We've brought him in for 3 million quid. It would feel unlikely that he's going to come in and immediately take that spot. He's clearly a player for the future. So I think we need to go out and buy that right winger if we're to do anything in the January window. And I think ultimately addressing that position could be the difference between Sunderland being, a good team this season and an excellent team this season. A team that could finish in the top 8 to a team that probably should finish in the top 8. That's how important I think that position is to us right now. But one of the things I'm a bit concerned about, and I touched on this on the match review with Al Endon, is our defensive set pieces. We've conceded a few now in recent weeks, which is something we weren't doing earlier in the season. I think the one on Saturday, now I've watched it back a couple of times, I think you probably would say it's Robin Roefs who's at fault. He doesn't make a command enough challenge to win the ball on the initial cross in, and then it's a really good finish from Pino. You would say that, you wouldn't expect someone to be able to pull off that kind of audacious finish and put it in the top corner from the position he was in. But in the Premier League, you get punished for these things all the time, and I think that we need to iron out these issues, because set pieces were a real positive for us, but the more you concede from them, the more sort of anxiety you have around them, and the more anxiety you can feel in the stadium. And I think right now Sunderland just need to get back to basics with defending set pieces and do them a little bit better, because, as I say, the last couple of weeks we've conceded, I think, 3 goals from corners. We conceded 1 against Tottenham, 1 against Brentford, and of course 1 against Crystal Palace. So we need to iron out those issues going forward. Habib Diarra is now going to be back with Sunderland. Senegal win the African Cup of Nations. I don't know when Diarra will be back. I suspect it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday, because there'll be celebrations, as there should be. They've just won a major tournament. Maybe the club give him a week off and he comes back for the Burnley game. I'm not 100% sure, but Diarra could well be in the mix-up for the West Ham game at the weekend, and I think that poses a really interesting dilemma. How does Sunderland fit in Habib Diarra to this team? Because at the moment, that Siddiqui, Xhaka, Lafay, midfield three is working pretty well. But Diarra is our record signing. He's a top-level player. He probably is an upgrade in there just because of his athleticism and his physicality. So it feels like he should come into the team. But what do you do with that? Is it a case of moving Lafay onto one of the wings? Do we put Lafay maybe on the right wing? I know he's played on the left a lot, but do we put him on the right wing and then keep Mundle or Adingra or Talby on the left? I'm not 100% sure, but I think you have to try and find a way of getting Habib Diarra into this team. And then it's a case of, well, do you take a defender out? Because we played with Trey Hume in there, sort of on the right wing or right wing back, kind of in a back five at the weekend. So for Diarra to come in, you may have to change the formation a little bit and maybe take a defender out. Does Trey Hume come out? Does, I don't know, Alderete or Mukiele? I mean, I doubt it, but those are decisions that are going to have to be made. I think Diarra will come back in and slot into that midfield. At the start of the season, the first few games, when we saw, I think he got 4 games, didn't he, before he got injured, I thought he was a really exciting player and I really enjoyed what I saw from Habib Diarra. So I think he'll get in there, but there's a decision to be made from Regis Labrie. Maybe these things sort themselves out. Maybe you pick up an injury elsewhere and that forces your hand. But if everyone's fit, that's a big decision to make. So let me know what you do with Habib Diarra, whether or not he'd start. In fact, give me kind of your best Sunderland 11 if everyone's fit in the comments below. I'd be interested to see what people think that is. Right, West Ham. They picked up a huge win at the weekend against Spurs. So West Ham, for me, were a team that were sort of doomed. Yeah, I was going to say doomed and gloomed, but I don't think that makes sense. But yeah, they were doomed. And they go to Tottenham. Tottenham, of course, not in great form. And they get a win. They 2-1, a great win. Scored a last-minute goal. And really interesting for me, who loves the relegation battle, that it's kind of opened that up now a little bit compared to where we were a couple of weeks ago. So their tails are going to be up for this game. This is a real chance for them. And they'll look at this game as an opportunity because, yes, Sunderland are doing well, but West Ham are still going to look at this as a newly promoted team at home, so they should be winning the game. That's the reality of Sunderland in the Premier League right now. Every team thinks they should be beating us. So they'll look at this and go, right, this is a chance to get back-to-back wins and really throw the cat amongst the pigeons at the bottom of the Premier League. But there are other factors. They've got planned protests for the game at the weekend. I think everyone's not going to be in the stadium until the 15th minute. And I think we have to go there and make it as uncomfortable as possible for these West Ham players, whether or not it's keeping the ball and just letting the crowd kind of get on top of them, whether or not it's trying to get an early goal and starting really, really fast, or is it a case of actually sort of keeping that for when people are back in the stadium, trying to keep the game at 0-0, and then when the fans start coming in, really turn the pressure on and turn the heat up in our play and in the high press. I'm not sure. It does add a different element, though, the fact that their fans are sort of protesting and they've got this boycott plan. But this is going to be a difficult game. You know, I don't think Sunderland will go to West Ham and it'll be a simple 2-0 win. I think West Ham are in fight mode. They are desperate for points, and a win for them would be huge in their season. So I think this will be a really difficult game for Sunderland. That being said, we should think that we've got a chance of winning it. West Ham have got some good players. They've got some quality, but they're very inconsistent. They, have won, I think, 3 games under Nuno. I think he's been in charge for like 14 games. So it's not like this West Ham team are, really banging form despite the fact they won this past weekend. They have been bad. They've been bad at the London Stadium as well. I think they've only won 1 game there since Nuno's came in. Well, maybe 2. They beat Burnley as well. So yeah, they beat Burnley and Newcastle since Nuno's been in there. So their home form has not been good. So I think this is just going to be a really interesting one to see how Sunderland approach it. But we should go there with every sort of feeling that we can get a positive result. I want to see us win that game. Obviously, we'll do big preview as the week goes on. But yeah, it's going to be super interesting. 12:30 kickoff as well, so on the TV, so people can watch it. But I just hope that we go there and we really make a good account of ourselves, because we do need to pick up results on the road. Our away form's not been amazing this season. It's been okay. It's been good for a newly promoted team, but for a team that's potentially trying to push into the top 10, we do need to start picking up away results. And when you're playing the bottom teams away from home, that's a chance to pick up 3 points. So it should be an interesting one at the London Stadium. And I kind of want to sign off this video talking about what can be actually achieved this season with this Sunderland team, because we're 3 points behind Liverpool, who are 4th, and I think most would say that Liverpool will probably get that 4th place spot, but Liverpool have picked up just 21 points from the last 17 Premier League games, and we've picked up 25 in that time. So That's a large sample size. And Liverpool won the first 5 games of the season, so that's why they're higher than us in the league table. But in that large sample size, and Liverpool are going to have European games and whatnot still, and FA Cup games and everything else, we have been, though, better than Liverpool in the Premier League in that sort of time. So I'm not saying we're going to get into the 4th place spot. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that the sample size for Sunderland doing this well is so big that I think, to be honest, right now we should set our sights on trying to finish in the top 8 and trying to get into Europe. And that's crazy to say. You know, we're at game 22. But game 22 means there's only 16 left of the season and we're in this position on merit. And I can't see a reason why we can't finish in Europe. And that it doesn't make it a target. It's not saying I'm going to be angry if we don't get into Europe. But why not? Why can't we get into Europe when we're in this position right now? And if you look at the teams around us, you got Chelsea, who've just changed manager. I've been unconvinced by them in the 2 games I've seen with Rafinha. So I'm not sure whether or not they'll be able to sort of, you know, maintain form and get into the top 5. You've got Manchester United, who are in disarray. They've just changed manager. Yes, they beat Man City, but it's kind of the Man United way. They can beat Man City and then they can lose against Wolves. You know, that's kind of what Man United are like. And then you've got Newcastle, who can't cope with 3 games in a week. They've got injuries. They just, even I watched them against Wolves yesterday. I thought they were really, really poor. So they are very hot and cold. They're good at St. James's Park. They're terrible on the road. And the 3 game weeks are really, really going to hurt them and are hurting them right now. Look at their fixture list in February. It's horrific. I think they've got 1 home game. So why not? You know, why can't we finish above them? Liverpool, they're in disarray right now. Slot is under huge pressure. They're at Anfield and it feels like they are 1 step forward, 2 steps back all the time. Their home form's not what it's been either. So, you know, I'm not saying that we are better than them, but I think right now the momentum and everything is with Sunderland and not with those teams. Then you look at the other teams that are kind of in a similar position to Sunderland in terms of expectations. You've got Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Brighton, Palace, Spurs, all kind of in a similar spot on the league table. And I think of all them clubs, we're the one with the most positive momentum. Maybe Brentford have a bit more than us. Fulham, maybe. But I don't see any major differences between us and them. I don't look at any of them teams and think, wow, they're miles better than Sunderland. I don't. So, for me, I look at everything from the top 4 down in the Premier League right now. Actually, the top 3 down. And I think there's a much of a muchness. I don't think there's much difference between 4th place Liverpool and like 13th place in the Premier League. So it's a case of Sunderland just picking up the results. We can see it's probably going to be a low points tally to get into Europe this year. You know, maybe it'll be 60 points. Can Sunderland get 60 points? Can Sunderland pick up 27 points from the last 16 games? Maybe not. You know, that'll probably be a big ask. But as I say, everyone's taking points off each other. So who's to say where Sunderland can or can't finish this season? So, yeah, I think it's interesting looking at the Premier League table and trying to guess where Sunderland could finish come the end of the season. But I certainly think, why not? Why not aim for Europe right now? The club said top 10. Top 10 to me, looking at the way the Premier League is right now, top 10 is basically saying we want to push for Europe, isn't it? So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I apologise, I've got a bit of a cold. A lot of a cold, actually. But it is what it is. Thanks for watching the video, though. Let me know in the comments below what you think of everything talked about here. And we'll catch you again. Me and Taff will be back for our usual videos, which will be dispersed throughout the week.